Good morning to everyone, and happy Friday. It's always a happy day, right? Unless Friday is your Monday. This is from July 21st, 2004, 7:18 p.m. It's a story titled The Crooked Smile by James C. Brown, MD. As we rolled 5-year-old Mary into the MRI room, I tried to imagine what she must be feeling. She had suffered a stroke that left half of her body paralyzed, had been hospitalized for treatment of a brain tumor, and had recently lost her father, her mother, and her home. We all wondered how Mary would react. She went into the MRI machine without the slightest protest, and we began the exam. At that time, each imaging sequence required the patient to remain perfectly still for about 5 minutes. This would have been difficult for anyone, and certainly for a 5-year-old who had suffered so much. We were taking an image of her head, so any movement of her face, including talking, would result in image distortion. About 2 minutes into the first sequence, we noticed on the video monitor that Mary's mouth was moving. We heard a muted voice over the intercom. We halted the exam and gently reminded Mary not to talk. She was smiling and promised not to talk. We reset the machine and started over. Once again, we saw her facial movement and heard her voice faintly. What she was saying wasn't clear. Everyone was becoming a little impatient with a busy schedule that had been put on hold to perform an emergency MRI on Mary. We went back in and slid Mary out of the machine. Once again, she looked at us with her crooked smile and wasn't upset in the least. The technologist, perhaps a bit gruffly, said, "Mary, you were talking again, and that causes blurry pictures." Mary's smile remained as she replied, "I wasn't talking, I was singing. You said no talking." We looked at each other, feeling a little silly. "What were you singing?" someone asked. "Jesus loves me," came the barely perceptible reply. "I always sing Jesus loves me when I'm happy." Everyone in the room was speechless. Happy? How could this little girl be happy? The technologist and I had to leave the room for a moment to regain our composure. Many times since that day, when feeling stressed, unhappy, or dissatisfied with some part of my life, I have thought of Mary and felt both humbled and inspired. Her example made me see that happiness is a marvelous gift, free to anyone willing to accept it. I'm sure we've all experienced being around people that were unhappy or miserable. And so often, people like that tend to shed their unhappiness and misery, and it makes other people impatient or even a little bit unhappy themselves. So for the most part, we try to avoid people like that. But it's not always possible, given the age that we live in. I'll leave you with the following, which is from a book titled My Way of Life by Walter Farrell. It was printed in 1952. Heaven begins in the meanest house, on the vilest street, in the most disordered city, when grace enters the soul of a person living there. Their life touches on the burning intensity of divine life, and the eternal fire is lighted in his or her soul. God bless everyone. Hope you have a safe and happy Friday. and I do hope to see you tomorrow.